Our girl is destitute.
What conspiracy theory do you have?
You're the Feyre.
I'm Feyre. He hates Tamlin. He's also a bit of a petty bitch.
And yet, she decides, let me just shoot my shot and see it. I'm like, girl.
Hello. Oh my
It's
God.
the last. We're on the season finale.
We are on the season finale. What the
We're done with
heck,
the book.
bro?
It's as I keep saying, we're finally here.
Yeah.
But like truly we are. Like, before we dive deep into it, the ending of this book, for all the folks at home, is one of the two, I'm going to say, main reasons we decided to have non-spoiler and spoiler episodes be separate from one another, because we just knew there's no way we could talk about this series without talking about Feyre turning into a fae, but
Bro.
we also don't want to spoil it for people who haven't read it. So
Right.
this is one of the main reasons why we did that. So
Yeah.
y'all are finally here. To the folks who are new to the series, like, we can finally talk about it with
We
you.
can finally talk about it. Welcome. Yeah. Wow. I
Welcome.
mean, I love the way this book ends. I think it's like
Mm,
there's so much like wrapped up but not wrapped up, and there's just like
yeah.
it's just so ripe for like the beginning of the series. Happy last episode.
Happy
Are
last episode.
just wow. What a time it has been. Yeah, I feel like Ariel and I were saying that our like Cauldron save me's for this week is like kind of a joint thing of where it's just my Cauldron save me is just sort of save me from like getting too sad, save me
I know.
from, you know, the kind of like slight not I think relief is the wrong word, but the slight like
Yeah.
kind of like okay, it's kind of nice that we'll get a little bit of a break, like,
Yeah.
you know, get some time away from this for a bit. Um but also it's just like it's really filled the days with like a lot of joy, and any kind of time of getting to chat with you is like obviously so lovely and glorious. And I think unpacking something that you love with someone else you love who also loves that thing, I highly recommend it to people.
Yeah. Yeah, truly.
Yeah,
I mean,
highly
yeah,
recommend.
you kind of summarized what I was going to say, but like, to put a finer point on my Cauldron
Yeah,
saving, it's I got to, for almost a year now,
yeah,
talk to my best friend about fun,
yeah,
silly face smut. That's also very deep too.
yeah,
Like, I know we joke about it saying it's so much more, but it's truly so much more. And like, I've talked about in many episodes how like healing it's been
yeah.
rereading the series for me, especially this book. Like,
Mhm.
I'm also just I'm a filmmaker, so I'm a sucker for analysis, and like
Yep.
getting to dive in deep in, like, I know our spoiler friends know this a little bit more, because like, let me tell you, if you end up reading the rest of the series, I highly recommend doing a reread. Like,
Yeah.
even if you like do a reread before moving on to Mist and Fury or something, like, well, actually no, I would recommend reading the whole series and then doing a reread,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
there is a lot in this book that foreshadows future books. And so
Yep.
like getting to like pick all those things out and what I mean, it just, as someone who grew up on like shows like Lost, or is like a Taylor Swift fan and loves to like find the Easter eggs, like Sarah just feeds you, right, with this
Mhm.
stuff. And it's been a real joy, and it's been such a joy to do with you. And I just want to say thank you for, it was about a year ago that you led me onto my SJM romantasy journey, and I will never look back, because they're so good, all of her
Yeah.
books. Also, sorry, not to get distracted, are you wearing a Terracin shirt? Oh my god, it's all of them!
So, I thought for our last episode, yes, I am wearing a Sarah J. Maas themed shirt. for our last day. It just felt very accurate it just felt right to do.
I love it.
But yeah, D literally was like, "I'm buying this shirt. Do you want one?" And I was like, "Yes, I absolutely do." So, yes, I am wearing one today in honor of our last episode. I mean, yeah, I just want to thank you for even I mean, we're here because it was your idea for us to do a podcast. And, what a fun experience. What an awesome like kind of like getting to know people in my life a little bit more too, in the sense of
Yeah.
like the people who have been interested in it, or who they've gotten into it, or whatever. Or I think one of my friends, she was like, "Okay, I'm just gonna have to bite the bullet and finally read these books because people have been telling me about it forever." And I'm like, "Yeah, join the party." Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so I just want to thank you for doing the Ariel thing and having a crazy
Oh,
idea. And I mean, a lot of our friendship has been Ariel having weird ideas and me like just kind of being like, "Okay, sure, let's
just jumping on
try."
board.
I'm just gonna jump on board, see what happens. So,
Uh,
um,
I
yeah,
mean, thank you for believing in my truly crazy ideas because they do get crazy. This is
I do.
I think one of the lesser crazy ideas, but
Oh yeah,
still crazy nonetheless.
this is probably the most tame, I would
Yeah,
say.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
but
Usually they involve lots of fake blood,
yeah, usually they
and
involve a lot of like
horror.
disturbing kind of like disturbing art projects that really fulfill both of us. So, what can we don't have time to unpack what that means. We will just move
Right.
forward. Um
It is funny on the note of, like, finding, people you had no idea, like,
mm,
love these series. I'm not gonna say what yet, just because 'cause
mm,
I'm not sure how much I wanna say yet, but I'm
yeah,
starting a new job this week that I'm very excited about, and my new boss, who's someone I've actually known for years, she was like we were on the phone the other day, just, like, doing some onboarding stuff, and I think it came up because I was saying, like, if you guys need help with social media,
right.
like, I can totally help out. I actually do social media for my podcast. She was like, "Oh,
Mhm.
what's your podcast?" So I told her, I'm like, "Have you ever heard of ACOTAR?" And she's like, "I'm literally reading Queen of Shadows right now." And I'm like, "You're on my favorite Sarah J. Maas book." So for like a solid, I'm gonna say 10 to 15 minutes while we're supposed to be doing onboarding stuff, we just
Yeah.
start like nerding out about Throne of
Yeah.
Glass and like the Massverse. And I'm like, this is amazing. So it is like so funny
Had
how you,
she
like, find
already
people.
read ACOTAR though?
And Crescent City. Yep.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
she
Right,
read in the
right. You
same
told me
order
she
that
did
I
the same
did.
order you did. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, which I think is the best order personally, but
Yes.
so that was
Wow.
great.
So fun. So cool.
It
Brings
is
people
funny
together.
how no, truly, like,
Yeah.
her work, it really, like, just unites people in a way
Yeah.
that, again, I think, we all joke, "This is fun," fantasy smut, and it is, like, don't get me wrong, but, like, I think the reason why Sarah's series, whether it's ACOTAR or Throne of Glass or Crescent City, like really stays with people is it is so much more. Like it goes, there's plenty of romantasy that is like pretty purely smut,
Yeah.
like and God
Exactly.
fucking
Yeah, they have their
bless.
place, they have their importance, but
Totally.
yeah.
I think with Sarah's stuff, it hits deeper on an
Mm.
emotional level and like a thema, especially in these times, like we I think we recorded our first episode even though we didn't release it until May. I think we recorded like the week of Trump's inauguration.
Yeah.
And like it was a really dark time. Like
Yeah.
the LA fires were going on. Like I know I was depressed as shit and I know like talking about these books like really made me feel not only better but it made me feel like part of a larger community and
Mhm.
the themes that she talks about of like fighting the good fight and fighting against tyranny and things like that. I'm like, yeah, no, like these books are truly so much more than just like fun face smut. So
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Me too. Me too. Well, okay. So for this week, you had to finish the book, which was
Yeah.
chapters 45 and 46. Where we left off was like basically, well, so it was the third task. Baby girl had to kill some Fae. We learn, or I guess Feyre like remembers, or she completely kind of solves the curse in the sense of that she realizes that Tamlin actually has a stone heart because he's the
Yes.
third one she's supposed to stab. And then, so she wins, but then Amarantha is a total bitch and is basically like, haha, I didn't specify of when I release. And then she proceeds to torture and abuse Feyre. And then through that process, Feyre solves the riddle, which is
Yeah.
love. And the last chapter, 44, ended with basically Feyre dying. Um,
Yeah.
I mean that's like the only real way to describe. And obviously, since you're here, you have finished the book, so we know baby girl doesn't die. But
Well,
what's
she
interesting,
does.
it's like
She
it's
dies, but she's
I mean, but
resurrected.
I mean that's the thing. Here's this whole discussion, right? Is that it's like
Sure.
how dead is dead? You know what I
Right,
mean? Like
right.
she's like
Yes.
a light dead. She's like a
Her
medium dead.
she's diet dead.
She's diet dead because she's not well, she's not quite there. And what's
Yes.
fascinating is it's basically because of her bargain with Rhysand that she's like
Yeah.
sticking around, right? And because we start 45 with her, I was far away but still seeing. So she's like she's looking at the whole situation through someone else's eyes. And then kind of later, I think in chapter 45, she realizes that she's looking through Rhysand's eyes. And then even later when Rhysand kind of does this power drop thing to
Yeah.
Tamlin, she even kind of says that like Rhysand brings like her spirit with him. Like she kind of says some sort of phrase where like he kind of is presenting, him and her basically. And like, so it's kind of yet again this bargain, which
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll dive in deeper. But yeah, the whole chapter 45, very short, but like so
Huge.
many important things happen in this chapter.
So, do y'all remember how we kept being like, maybe this bargain isn't such a bad thing?
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
This was why. I think we're kind of safe to say this is not the last we're gonna see of Rhysand. I think that's pretty obvious by the end of
Yeah.
this book. Their bargain is still in place, right? Like in theory, she's gonna have to visit him once a week. They acknowledge that at the end of by the end of the book. But at the bare minimum, he basically saves her life, right? Like
Yeah. Again.
she yet again. I mean,
This is the
she
third now.
at
Third time in
least
this
the
book.
third, at
Yeah, because
least,
oh,
yeah,
yeah, I mean, if you wanna say Fire Night, and then
that too, yeah,
right? Well, yeah, so it's like Fire Night, and then when the bargain is struck that night, the
right,
fever,
yeah,
at the second task, so that's
yes,
3, and then
yeah,
this.
yeah. Even I would say a little bit in the third task because wasn't there something about when she was like holding the dagger, she kind of felt the bond
Yeah,
a
yeah,
little
she
bit.
felt a little bit
Yeah,
of him being like, "Just do it," you know?
yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
So there in multiple ways he has saved her, um, which is really significant. Um, it's funny because like when you're saying like she light dies, I feel like she leaves her mortal coil to
Yeah,
return to her immortal coil, you know?
yeah.
Um, and
I
it's,
mean, that's basically what this chapter is her humanity
yeah,
dies. Yeah,
yes.
yeah,
And it dies in both a literal and metaphoric way, I think,
yes.
because we'll get to it in a second, but she really is grieving over having to murder
Yeah,
these
dude.
Fae. But
Yeah.
before we get to that, one thing I want to say, and this actually kind of goes back to my Cauldron saved me a little bit, of part of the reason why these books are so healing for me is so this description that Farah gives on page, I guess I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but I do want to talk about here because I think it still pertains. So at the beginning of chapter 46, this is like when Farah is returning to her body, right? She says, everything was black and warm and thick, inky, but bordered with gold. I was swimming, kicking to the surface where Tamlin was waiting, where life was waiting. And we get this description of kind of this sort of, I guess you can call it the afterlife. purgatory sort of place.
Mm.
Um, without spoiling, we're gonna get another description similar to this later in one of the other books as well. And the reason I'm bringing up is this is a really personal thing for me. So can't remember if I've talked about this on the podcast or not, but I don't think I have.
I mean,
Um,
maybe a little. I don't know if you've gone
maybe
to like
tiny.
detail. Yeah.
So for folks who don't know, I am epileptic. I was diagnosed when I was 11. I have juvenile myoclonic epilepsy, but I've had two grand mal seizures in my life, and those are like the big ones, right? First time, didn't really know I was having a seizure. Second time, though, I was blacked out, but I still had thought, like conscious thought somehow. And I was basically in a space like favorite describes. Kind of this black void. And all I remember thinking is like, am I dead? Right. And that's something that took me a really, really long time to process. But is like a really big part of my life and is actually a huge reason why I make horror films. Um, and so when I read that description and then a description that will come later that's a little more detailed in one of the future books, um, it really hit home for me. And I was like, "Oh, I feel like really seen
Mm.
with this description of death," right?
Mhm.
Especially because it's like the way to me it's described isn't necessarily like it's a bad thing, right? It kind of like because I remember when I was going through my own experience, like I didn't feel like, oh, this is all there is. Like, it almost felt
Mm.
like a waiting room, if that makes sense,
Mhm.
and, like, even though it's not quite described that way in this book, like, there's still a similar kind of feeling to it, so
She's in an in between. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly, and, it's just really nice to see someone talk about that in a way that resonates with my experience, and an experience that, like, I know a lot of people don't have, but those of us who do, it's like you kind of feel alone in it,
Yeah.
like, oh, like no one else quite understands this unless you've gone through it.
Mhm.
And I don't know if Sarah has or not, but regardless if she has or not, she somehow got it.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's really nice.
Yeah. Yeah, I can absolutely see that. And, I think, thank you for sharing it. I know that's not like, I know that experience is kind of like pretty present for you, kind of like all the time. But
Yeah.
I also know it's not like the easiest for you to talk about. So, like, I appreciate you sharing it with our people here. But also, I think it makes complete sense that this would kind of like touch you in a way. And because, near death experiences, like, we read, we see about that kind of stuff all the time, and I feel like what you're specifically pointing on is that, like, because in a lot of times it is kind of put in this guise of this sort of like you're escaping this terrifying space, this darkness, this blah blah blah. And while like hers is like she's kind of like swimming to like a surface, there's
Yeah.
not this like
There's not a
there's
terror
not as
to
much
it.
negativity, yeah, like, put
Yeah.
around it, and I feel
Yeah.
like that's kind of what, like, you're touching on is you're kind of I feel like what Ariel's trying to share with us is, like, kind of this really, really beautiful thought, actually,
Yeah.
death is surrounded by so much fear and so much darkness, um, and so for you to kind of be, like, almost giving the rest of us this kind of, like this like peek behind the door of sort of like,
Yeah.
no, like it doesn't always mean it's scary. Like
No.
there can be a sort of like calm almost that, that happens. And I think that's really beautiful actually.
Yeah.
So yeah, but
Before she gets
before
there.
all of this, yeah, so
Yes.
like kind of what you just talked about, that's pretty much what is like 45 is her just kind of like in this in
Limbo.
between zone, right?
Yeah. Looking through
And
Rhysand's
look,
eyes.
yeah, looking through Rhysand's eyes. I mean, also like how bizarre of an experience because she does look over and see her own dead body, which is like
Yeah.
beyond because like that's just got to be the most crazy experience to like be sort of floating above and like seeing your body in the most fucked up angle, basically. And just like what that experience like does to you. But then for her to pretty much immediately get to look over and she sees Lucian's mask fall off.
Oh, sees what
Ugh,
her sacrifice was for, right?
exactly.
Like,
And just
that
like,
moment really hit, and
oh
then
yeah.
getting to see what Tamlin looks like for
Well,
the first time. I mean, that comes a little
exactly.
later, but
Well, but that's the thing that I actually really love is that Tamlin keeps his mask on.
yeah.
Um, there's something like weirdly, it's almost like he's not ready to see the world without his mask on until like
Yeah.
Feyre is back or
Yeah.
until things are handled, right?
Yeah.
Because y'all, this is so satisfying that Amarantha
Ugh.
basically once she sees the masks coming off and once like cuz I also realized that once this curse is broken, Tamlin is back at his full power. So
Mhm.
all of the Fae are back to their full power.
Yep.
And the fact that she very quickly, Amarantha sees Tamlin kind of like the power is back, and the fact that she starts pleading for her life, it's
Ugh.
so sick how satisfying this is.
I
Like, her
know.
saying please is just like, "Oh, oh,
Like, we are fed. You know?
oh my god."
No, and,
It's
like,
so good.
it's so good. It's so funny. I think the first read, it was a lot more satisfying for me. I think the second
Mm,
time, it was definitely still satisfying, but it all there was, like, a sadness to it in that
yeah.
how beast mode Tamlin goes.
Mm,
Like, and this is not to blame him at all, but, like, it's really disturbing
yeah,
how he, like, sword through the fucking head and or face really, and then
yeah.
rips her throat out. And I mean, I think, I love some poetic justice, but it felt
Mhm.
so quick. I kind of
You almost
wish,
wanted it to last a little bit longer. Yeah,
which
yeah,
I
yeah.
know is a little sick to say, but like,
Yeah.
I don't know, there's something about it. And I think that where we do get some poetic justice is in the next chapter when we see, or when Feyre sees her body and sees it below Claire's decaying body, which was
Her
like,
It's so good. Like,
yeah,
that mental tableau is,
yeah,
like it again, it feels really, like, insane, but, like, it is so satisfying that she's
yeah,
below Claire, that it's like,
yeah.
yeah, she shouldn't be hired, like, she should be below and below a decayed corpse, and,
Ugh,
like, ugh, just, like, the poetic justice of that moment is so fucking satisfying. But yeah, like I know exactly what you mean. Like you almost wish that it
yeah,
went on a little bit longer. But there's also
yeah.
this like kind
No,
of bit of an
right? Yeah,
extra fuck you that it is so short. That it is kind of
yeah.
like, bitch, you don't even matter. Like the
No, that's
minute
so true.
that he gets all of his power back, it's like she dies in a page. Like it's
Yeah,
so fast.
yeah.
Um well, and also I think what's interesting too is the like the parallel between the attack that Amarantha does on Feyre and on Rhysand to then what
Mm,
Tamlin ends up doing to Amarantha, because we even have on page 405 the she thrashed but could do nothing against the brutal onslaught of like so she's being thrown against a wall with a sheer force of power. Like that's exactly what Amarantha was doing to Feyre, was doing to Rhysand. So it's
yeah.
very satisfying when this happens. Um, I also this little thing too of like how some of Amarantha's loyal like Fae try to kind of come help her. And this
Yeah.
very quick of like, absolutely not. Like
Yeah.
them, it's like the minute these masks come off, they all know what this means. And it's just this like it's such a nice moment to see these other fairies, the high fae, jumping in and like just like attacking. Like that
Yeah.
is such a satisfying moment. It feels like that moment in the movie, right? When you're just like,
Yes.
yeah, everyone's coming together, like battle, yeah, haha. Like it definitely
Oh,
feels like one of those moments. And it's really quite satisfying and lovely. Um, but then the like silence that falls.
well, speaking of joining in,
Yeah.
right? Coming
Mhm.
together, I think the most surprising thing of
Dude.
this
Yeah.
chapter is what all the High Lords do. And I think for me, what was especially surprising is that the first High Lord is the High Lord of the Autumn Court, who is Lucian's dad, because the Autumn Court has not been painted in a good light. We don't really know much about his dad other than I think it was Tamlin tells Feyre earlier in the book that it was his dad who made the order to kill Lucian's lover back in the day. That's really all we know.
Mhm.
We know more about his brothers and his mom, I think. So this is kind of our first real impression of the High Lord of the Autumn Court. And it's him who's the first one to offer this little spark.
Which I just I I mean, yeah, like again, we don't know a ton. I mean, I'm basically just going to repeat everything Ariel just said, but it's just it is wild to me because
Yeah.
the male that we have had painted for us, this
Doesn't seem
doesn't add up to me
no.
because also this seems like a very elitist male as well, right?
Yeah.
Like the
Yeah.
whole reason why Lucian loses his lover and has to deal with all of that is because he believes, he being the High Lord of the Autumn Court, that his son should have a a partner that's in like the high fae partner. And so
Right.
the fact that he basically, it kind of feels like they're giving, like, they say like a drop of light. So it kind of feels like a drop of power,
Right.
right? And for the fact that it's him who does this first, I can only think that it's for Lucian. That it's like
Yeah.
for payback of Lucian and also
Yeah.
just overall paying back of like she has saved them. Like, yes, Tamlin
Yes.
kills Amarantha, but Feyre is the reason why he's able to do that. Anyway, it is just really wild that it's him who does it first. That was
Well,
one of the things for me that I was like, huh.
especially because I got the impression that these high lords seem to know what they're doing. Like I
Yeah.
think they seem to at the very least think it's possible that exactly what happens, her getting resurrected, will happen because when Rhysand goes
Yep.
up
Yep.
to give his little spark of light, he says to Tamlin, "For what she gave, will bestow what our precedors have granted to few before."
Yep.
So that's really interesting. I think they're aware that it's possible. But he also says something that I just want to make a little note of. After he says that, he tells Tamlin, "This makes us even."
Mm.
Which, even for what?
Yeah, because all we really have right now is that Rhysand told us that his father killed Tamlin's, uh, father and
Which
what have
that could
you.
be the reason.
I have a feeling Sarah's gonna give us more for
Yeah,
that, but
I do too.
it is a little it is a little, like, honestly, I kinda giggled at that moment because
Yeah,
I was just like, "God," like, with a first reader cap on,
yeah.
we don't know Rhysand that well yet, but we know him just well enough that it feels so Rhysand for him to fucking say that in that moment.
Of course.
Like, for him to just, like, because even Fairy even says, like, after he says that, she's like, "And I felt the twinkle of his humor as he
Yeah.
opened his hand and let the seed of light fall on me." Like, it's just so I just love that we know him just enough to just be like, "Ugh, fucking God, Rhysand." Like, what a fucking
I
move.
know, for real. The other thing I kind of want to propose, I definitely think the dad thing, the daddy issues thing could
Yeah.
be a part of it. Um, I also wonder if it, like, at this point, it's very clear. I think not to just us as readers, but also at least probably a little bit to the three of them. There's a love triangle
Yeah.
budding, right?
Yeah.
Because I mean, Tamlin literally walked in on Rhysand making out with Feyre, which in all fairness, like that was to
Yeah.
cover, but we don't know if Tamlin
knows
understands
that.
that yet. They
Yeah.
haven't talked about it. Um, I also I wanna bring us back to Feyre looking through Rhysand's eyes,
Mhm.
during this limbo period she's in. Because this is not the first time that's happened. If you recall in last week's episode, in the last chapter before
Mm.
in chapter 43, when Rhysand is getting beaten to shit as well as Feyre, there's a moment where Feyre flickers into Rhysand's POV. And we
Yeah.
even said, what the fuck is that about? We don't even
Right.
have the time to process this. Like, what does this mean?
Too much going on.
Right. It was a setup for this.
Yeah.
So now we know through this bond that Rhysand and Feyre have, through this bargain that they made, Feyre can see through Rhysand's eyes, and it's not just in death. Because the first time she did, she was alive. Now, she was dying, right?
Right.
But my
Oh,
question
I
is,
see. Interesting.
what
Yeah,
does
yeah.
this mean,
For
right?
the future.
And for the future, especially because Feyre's not a human anymore,
Yeah.
right? Like Feyre is a high fae.
Yeah.
Um, Meaning presumably she could have a mate. And presumably that mate is Tamlin,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like, like
That's
they
that's
walk off
yeah.
into the sunset, right?
Right.
So if
Oh,
that's true,
what's
right?
that?
If
That's
they are
gonna
mate,
get weird.
that's gonna get really weird of those two being mates, and then suddenly, like, her and Rhysand have this bond that is supposed to last until she dies,
Yeah. Which then
which
she's
she is now an
immortal now.
immortal. Which I mean, they can still die, right? Like they can die
Yeah.
in battle and things like that, but like
Yeah. In theory,
it's
it's
really
gonna be a long
hard.
fucking time. Yeah.
Yes. So is this a
Yeah.
joint custody situation?
Yeah.
Like what's gonna happen, right?
Well, and it's also like, can it go the other way? Like,
In what way?
could he look through her eyes?
Great question.
Or is it just a one-way sitch? Yeah.
TBD
Well, I mean,
for one of the next books, hopefully.
much like Sweet Baby Feyre says in chapter 46, like she's like, "Not today." Like I
Yeah,
love how
exactly.
much Feyre like is just like, I can't." She's like, "I
Yeah.
cannot talk about it right now."
Yeah,
Because you're right. I was a little caught up in the headspace of like maybe it's just kind of like near death experiences, maybe it's just
yeah,
like in
and
times of
maybe it is.
severe trauma,
Yeah,
like it's kind of that like accidental emotional jump or something. But yeah, I
totally.
guess we'll
It
kind
could
of
be.
see how that all lands. One of the things before we jump to chapter 46, actually, though,
Yeah.
one of the things that I want to bring up that is kind of a reoccurring theme, I think, for these two chapters is Feyre's like complete inability till maybe the end of the chapter, end of the book, to have any kind of a bright side of this situation.
Give
Like,
herself grace.
literally, she is dead, basically, right?
Yeah,
Laying there looking at her lover, Tamlin. And on page 405, because she's watching, he just killed Amarantha. And then
yeah.
there's kind of a shift where everyone, because Lucian even goes like, no, like there's sort of this shift of like, okay, now that that's dealt with, holy shit, this kind of like savior of ours is dead, right?
Right.
And so Feyre's watching and she says, I wanted to get to Tamlin. I wanted to touch him, to beg for his forgiveness for what I'd done for the other bodies on the floor.
And
Like,
it continues. It
and
continues
it
through
it
chapter
is
46.
so gnarly in chapter
Yeah.
46. Like when she's kind of talking about like the kind of how they haven't really had a lot of time together.
Yeah.
She and it's page 409. She's like, we'd scarcely had a moment alone together in the hours that followed Amarantha's death, that followed what I had done to those two fairies. And then on the same page, when people are thanking Tamlin and thanking her, she goes, I had no words to offer them in exchange for their gratitude, the gratitude for the fairies I'd butchered to save them. And then even later, she's like, I'd never had the heart to ask, like, what happened to those fairies' bodies or anything like just, and you can tell she almost feels like dirty, almost like
Yeah.
around Tamlin a little bit. And
Yeah.
it's this, it is so I gotta say, really fucking frustrating to read because you're
Yeah.
like, girl, what the fuck? Because
You just
yes,
saved
yes,
everyone.
yeah, yes, it is sad that you had to kill two fairies, but what the fuck? All these people, first of all, an entire court is now can live without these fucking masks on.
Yeah.
These magical creatures are back to their full magical power, which is huge. They get to leave this mountain. This tyrant is dead. Like,
Yep.
what? The good far outweighs the bad here. And she just cannot get over it. Even like the last
Yeah.
fucking page of the book, she's like,
Yeah.
she's like, I will tomorrow, like, I'll deal, with what I had done to face what I'd shredded into pieces inside myself. Like, you're just like, girl, wow. Like, where is the silver lining here?
It's rough. I I had basically those same thoughts as I was reading. I'm just like to the point of like, yeah, I think I was also getting frustrated of like you saved everyone. Like what?
Okay.
I think for me I was definitely getting frustrated. Also, I'm someone who's read the whole series, so it's as we both are, so there's that, but
Yeah.
I think what I appreciate is I think this is a very realistic depiction that Sarah has put in here
Mm,
of like, look, I've never been in a situation where I've had to save anyone's life, so I don't know the feeling, but I
mhm.
have just read a lot of like true life stories or stories based on true life stories about folks who like save people, like whether it's a few people or like entire groups of people, but like one or a few people get left behind through no fault of the person saving them.
Right.
And I'm going to say 9 times out of 10 when those I've seen those stories, the savior ends up hyper focusing on the people who they couldn't save.
Yep.
And it's like this like almost like survivor's guilt, I think is what it
Yep.
is. And I think there's something really empathetic to it. Like I if I were ever in a situation like that, I probably would do the same thing, honestly. Um because it's always like, oh, but if I just done one thing different or powered through more, I could have saved everyone. So I
Right.
get it. On the other hand, in this
Yeah.
specific scenario, there is no saving everyone without killing those two fairies.
Yeah.
Like that it's literally the trolley problem as we've talked
Yeah.
about, right? Like there is no both because like you said, Tamlin would not have his powers back and he couldn't have killed Amarantha, which also just real quick want to note Rhysand was fucking right.
Yeah.
Remember
Yep.
when he revealed his whole plan to
This
Feyre?
was
He
his
said
exact plan.
this was his exact plan. And I mean, and this was something he couldn't really control. There's a lot of elements he couldn't control.
No.
He's just, I think, a smart guy and knew this was their best shot, and he was right.
Yep.
Um, and in that case, yeah, there was no saving everyone, unfortunately. And I think this is really, I think we may have mentioned it before. That's a big thing that comes up in every single Sarah J. Maas series is
Yeah.
the idea that not everyone can be saved, unfortunately. So
Yeah. I'm so glad you brought that up, actually. I mean everything, but mainly kind of where you started with like the concept of survivor's guilt like
yeah,
is so unbelievably real. And you're totally right. Like I I kind of forget sometimes how much Sarah like she kind of like represents she like tries to like represent all these different kinds of like mental struggles.
yeah,
And this is her. And here's the thing is like we've already seen Feyre experience a fair amount of survival guilt, right? Like when she's kind of realizing what her life has turned into at the spring court and thinking about her family. This is
yeah,
when she doesn't quite know yet that they're being taken care of. Like there is this element of survivor's guilt. So we already know that Feyre is prone for this. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Like this is absolutely a representation of what a fair amount of people unfortunately have had to go through. I mean, even survivor's guilt of people who were in the military and who
Yeah.
came back from, whether they saw a lot of action or not, there's still this weird level. s- I don't mean to say weird, but
Yeah.
there is a very interesting level of survival's guilt because you came back and not everyone
Yes.
gets to say that. And so
Yep.
you're right. This is probably like a true representation because it's so, it really, it's Sarah throws in some kind of sentence of how Feyre is feeling about these fairies, I would say in like almost every paragraph for the rest of this book. Like it is
Yeah.
so wild because I even found another one where it's like on page 410, when her and Tamlin are finally getting like their
Mm.
time alone and before some very fun things happen,
Yes.
she literally is like, I should be on my knees weeping with shame for all that I had done.
Yeah.
And what I love is immediately, like, Tamlin's just staring at her, and she's staring at him, which her finally getting to see him without the mask, which must be
Oh,
fucking
must be talked about.
insane.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine how I personally can't imagine actually how beautiful he is.
Oh,
Like,
right?
I
Like,
actually have issues with it because it feels like he is very kinda classic, like
yes.
long hair Prince Charming, and, like, if he
Yes.
was so beautiful or just, like, if even the eyes, right? She always comments on his eyes and just, like, yeah, how that's gotta be looking at him. Oh god, also with her, like, heightened senses. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
I should finish
No,
my
no,
thought before I get into all of
it's
that.
okay.
But, like but anyway, so she's having this moment of thinking, like, "I should be on my knees, blah, blah, blah." And what I love is he comes in, he, like, touches her face, and he goes, "How can I ever repay you for what you did?"
Yeah.
And I literally wrote in my notes, "Thank you, Tamlin." Like, Jesus fucking Christ. Like,
Yeah.
she is only gonna start believing some of, like, how we feel about her and how everyone else feels about her. Unfortunately, she's only gonna start believing that stuff once Tamlin starts really, like, pounding this in, right? Like,
Yeah.
this is that kind of situation where we do need our loved ones to help remind us of perspective and of the
Yes.
situation and all of this stuff. And like he's gonna have to carry a fair amount of this on his shoulders, unfortunately. But like
Yeah.
I was just so glad that like one of the first like real things he says to her is this sentence.
Yes.
How can I repay you? And it's like, oh, thank you, Tamlin. Like, yes, this is exactly what she needs to be hearing, what she needs to be told. She needs to be feeling like it's gonna make her uncomfortable, but like he needs to continue to like hold space for her feeling guilty, but also just like
Yes.
really reiterating like she gave her life.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
someone needs to be reminding her of that. And I was just so thankful that like that was one of the first things Tamlin says to her.
Yeah. No, me too. And I think like it's gonna be a long process. I'm just gonna
Yeah.
warn new readers that it's gonna be a long process. I think, the frustration though that you're feeling is super valid because I think where we're starting to go towards, and I'm just gonna say it, it's not gonna end here.
Yeah.
Is and not just with Farah, there's other characters we will see this with later on, is unintentional martyrdom,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah, 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 yeah.
Which, like, and when I say that in the sense of, like, she's not trying to be like, "Look at me, I'm a martyr," but, like, in the, like, true martyrdom of, like, I am doing, like,
Yeah.
Jesus dying for your sins,
Right.
right, type of stuff.
Yeah.
It's and that's a pretty dangerous place to be for someone who especially has survivor's guilt,
Yeah.
because that could lead to, like, some really deep self-loathing. It's
Yeah.
gonna be, like, I think one of the few cliffhangers we have with
Is
this book is Feyre's
that.
guilt, and
Yeah.
there's a reason for that. We will see her mental health process through several books going forward.
Mhm.
And I think it's a really, again, this is why I love Sarah's writing, is like she kind of tends to have almost like a primary mental health like thing in each
Struggle.
series.
Yeah.
Exactly, struggle. I would say with each one of her heroines, and other characters as well, which I think is really cool. And this is we've been introduced, I would say, to
Yeah.
Feyre's main mental health struggle, which is this guilt she feels, the survival guilt that she
Yeah.
feels. Um so yeah, that's, I mean, that's gonna continue. That's really, really big. But going back to what you brought up of, we see Tamlin finally. Full
Dude,
unmasked Tamlin. I mean, we all expected him to be beautiful,
of course.
obviously. He is. Uh she says on page 410 he might have been if had he been human, he might have been in his late 20s, so like, older than her but still very
Mhm.
young. And yeah, kind of going back to this whole survivor's guilt, she says, but he wasn't human and neither was I. I wasn't certain whether that was a happy thought or not. Like, this
Yeah.
is, we're going to struggle. We're going to struggle through this.
Yeah, there's a lot for baby girl to unpack. Like I
Yeah.
actually the more I sit with kind of what how you said how like her guilt and stuff is like probably like a more realistic representation. The more I sit with that statement, honestly, the more I'm like actually really appreciating how Sarah handles these two
Right?
chapters now
Yeah.
because it is very like yeah, it's a happy ending,
Yeah.
but everything isn't just like erased now,
Yeah.
right? Like she has to deal with the fact that she did have to become a murderer,
Yeah.
right? And she is no longer human. Like
Yeah.
this, she is not, yeah. And she feels such guilt for being a murderer, but she also was given this great gift of life. And so it's got to feel very confusing for her of like where she should kind of land. And also just like let's not forget that she's been under the mountain in that cell doing these parties for 3 months,
I think it's 3. Yeah, because it's
right? Because each task
each
is a new
moon
moon.
phase, full moon. Full moon, I think, or something like that.
So like 3
Yeah.
months, right?
Yeah. It's been a long
Like
time.
that's a really long time cuz she has this moment, right? It's actually right after the quote that I kind of just did where it was like, he's like how can I ever repay you? And she's like you don't need to. And she literally said let that be that. Let that dark dank self fade away and
Mm.
Amarantha's face forever disappear from my memory. Like I feel like that's also Sarah's little moment of like, I know we've gotten really caught up in like Amarantha's dead and Feyre's alive, but let's remember like baby girl's gonna have PTSD. And so
Oh,
it's
yeah.
not this normal ending of a fairy tale where you're like, and they lived happily ever after. It's like,
Right.
actually, they they're going to live, which is
Yes.
great.
And hopefully
But
happily.
with that comes what living after any kind of traumatic experience is, which is the
Yeah.
sort of the battle, the struggle of going through all these things. And she's not even like she's not even human anymore. Like there's like one of
No.
these things would be enough to deal with. But the
Right.
fact that it's like all of this
It's a
and
lot.
it's a lot and also not what I kind of started touching on before I got all, you know, if any of us have watched Twilight, read Twilight,
Yeah.
if any of us have watched any kind of situation where a mortal turns into an immortal being, there's
Yeah.
always this portion where they're suddenly realizing, they can hear grass grow, like that kind of shit, right? So
Yep.
she is literally experiencing I just realized how crazy, overwhelming, overstimulating everything must be
Oh
to her
my
right now because
god.
she is heightened senses, you guys. Like everything is heightened.
Yes.
And she's having to bounce back after the most traumatic experience she has ever had. And then she has to kind of go into like lady savior, like
Yes.
PR mode almost.
Right. Right.
So actually, I am so appreciative that Tamlin like clocks this and is like, we need to go somewhere quiet and alone because
Yes.
like, and for him to have that awareness because he was born Fey, right? It's not like
Yeah.
it's not like he magically one day had heightened senses.
Right.
So I love that like we're being reminded of we've been so starved of this relationship for a good chunk of chapters that getting these little bits of him being aware that she's kind of freaking out and him like
Oh, yeah.
having that partner awareness is like very lovely. Like Sarah does a good job of kind of giving us these little bits of like remembering sort of like who they are. Like they were friends. They were friends. And you
Yeah.
notice when your friend is freaking out. But my God, can you imagine how overwhelming all of this must be right now? Like,
I
fuck, dude.
no, truly. I mean, as someone who like does actually get overstimulated sometimes, like this is like a nightmare. I feel like nightmare scenario. Like you just died, come back as a whole new being. Everyone's like praising you when you're hating yourself. You like you're also horny for your man who you haven't fucked in like 3 months, which could you I mean, like we get a little taste of their sex scene, not the full blown thing, but
Yeah.
like having sex for the first time as a fae has got to be a whole thing.
It's got
It's
to
a
be a
lot.
whole thing. Yeah.
But one thing I did want to talk about, I'm so glad you brought up her having to kind of like process the fact that she's not human yet and like this, I mean, she's barely even begun that mourning process, right? Of mourning her human
Right.
self.
That is also to
Yeah.
me one of like the most realistic things as well
Yeah.
of just
Yeah.
like her just kind of being like later. Like, I
Yeah.
don't wanna talk about any of this, right? Because Tamlin starts wanting to talk about the tattoo and the bargain, and she's like, "Ah,
Yeah.
bah, bah, nah,
Nope.
bah, 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 bah." You know, I mean, I do love that he is already trying to think of a way to, like, get her out of it,
Of
but, like, she's
course.
just like, "I just cannot." And
Yeah.
then
Just
his
fuck me.
yeah, exactly, and then his response is like, "Later." And it's like, it just
Yeah.
makes so much sense, like, they both wanna remind themselves that each other is real. There's
Yeah.
too much to discuss, there's too much to process, so sometimes and, like, you know, we see this concept in other, like, storylines where it's like,
Yeah.
oh, they want to escape, like, what they need to unpack, so they're gonna fuck. But, like,
Right.
sometimes with a partner where, like, you're already having sex with each other, like, it's not you're
Yeah.
not just, like, using somebody. Sometimes when you're kinda going through a lot and you just need, like, I just kinda wanna, like, feel and
Yeah.
experience and I want to release. I also want to
Yep.
feel kind of safe, but I also don't really want this to be gentle. Like I need to work out a lot of stuff. It makes
You
so
need a
much sense to me that
ground.
they're exactly. It makes so much sense to me that they then bone
Yeah.
and that Tamlin is just like kind of like, you know, you want to do this a little rough, baby girl? I'm going to bite your finger. Let's do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like,
I
yes, like let
I
them
mean,
have their just
also,
like release.
I mean, they have had at least 3 months of pent up
Oh, bro.
urge.
Can't
I
even.
mean, both of them just they've got a nut. You know,
Ah,
they just
exactly.
gotta,
Yeah,
you
sometimes it just needs to happen. So,
know?
like, I love this, like, moment of, like, "Yep, we're gonna have just, like" it was probably pretty quick and dirty, you know? And
Oh,
sometimes those are the best.
1,000%.
So, like,
Truly.
hey,
Like,
right.
no judgment
Oh,
whatsoever. In
yeah.
fact, cheerleading over here. You
Honestly,
know?
so stoked for them. Necessary,
Yes.
needed. Like, I just
Yes.
hope we get a longer, better explanation of sex between them later. But
Oh,
anyway,
yes. But going back to her humanness, right?
yes.
You know, they go to sleep after their hanky panky, and Feyre is woken up by a tugging on her bond. And so she finds this little balcony outside the mountain. First time she is seeing daytime in 3 months, which she has a moment of
Incredible.
being like, oh, the sun, right?
Yeah.
And it's Rhysand who, not for nothing, she couldn't find him after she woke up from the dead, right?
Mhm.
So he's back, wings out, which we'll get to in a second, but they start talking, right?
Mhm.
He's kind of checking in on her, which I think
Yeah.
is actually really sweet, right?
Yeah.
You know, I think it's safe to say at this point he's not a bad guy. We know this.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
he's morally ambiguous in other ways, but he's not a bad
Yes.
guy, right?
Yeah.
So they're talking and we'll get to some of the other stuff they talk about, but she on page 414 says, I'm an immortal who's been mortal. This body is different, but this, I put my hand on my chest, my heart, this is still human. Maybe it always will be, but it would have been easier to live with it. Easier to live with what I did if my heart had changed too. She's talking about killing the other Fae. Maybe if I didn't, maybe I wouldn't care so much. Maybe I could conceive myself convince myself their deaths weren't in vain. Maybe my immortality will take that away. I can't tell whether I want it to. And then Rhysand kind of like looks at her and says, "Be glad of your human heart, Feyre. Pity those who don't feel anything at all." And I think that's really significant. And I think he's right
Yep.
because, we have been, especially when Feyre first came to the Spring Court, we got a pretty in depth history slash like viewpoint from the human side of like these Fae are just monsters and they're heartless, which we now know isn't 100% true, right? Like we
Mhm.
know they have hearts, even if they're of stone, like Tamlin's
Mhm.
was. Now is not. But the Fae, to some credibility of those rumors, like they are pretty brutal, right? We've
Mhm.
seen that other side of brutality. And death to them means something different than death to humans, right? And so for Rhysand, who again, even though he's not a bad guy, is a very morally ambiguous character. He is the High Lord of the Night Court, which is very feared. He definitely has seen a lot of brutality and enacted brutality. For him
Mhm.
to say, "Be glad of your human heart, Feyre, pity those who don't feel anything at all," that is really significant.
Mhm.
And I think it tells us a lot about him,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah. Like I it makes you kind of have this little sadness in your heart of like wonder if he thinks that he has numbed himself so intensely to
Yep.
survive particular things.
Yep.
Does he maybe feel like he doesn't feel anymore?
Yeah.
Which is very sad. I mean, I think this whole scene with Resand is fascinating
Telling.
to me. But yeah, it's very telling, and like that quote, I think is just such a huge moment between them because it does also very much show this softer side of him. I would say, they're talking about
Yeah.
emotions, right? Like they're kind
Yeah.
of getting sort of vulnerable with each other, and I think it's really interesting how he responds to her. And weirdly like telling her almost exactly what she needs to hear without really knowing it, right? Like
Yeah.
it's kind of a like him saying that is also kind of him being like all the things you're feeling and going through right now, hold on
Valid.
to that.
Yeah.
Remember it.
Yep.
Because also we have, I mean, like you said before, we got a pretty in-depth like particular type of experience with like the Fae.
Yeah.
And something that you and I kept talking about was just the complete lack of compassion. Um that the fairy, some of them are not as monstrous as the humans think, but some of them are like hearing
Yeah.
how people like Lucian and Tamlin and like and recent like the families that these males have grown up in, just the complete lack of compassion and kind of having to numb yourself to death, to things. And the fact that this is what Rhysand brings in to like be important, like it kind of feels like this weird like remember this, keep this
Yes.
feeling, keep who you are. And so it's very weirdly like exactly what she needs to hear. And I don't think it has hit her because her kind of immediate mental response is that like she fears she's like already lost it, right? That like
Yes.
she's already losing this whatever. I'm so glad you like kind of touched on that moment first because I think it's like if you take anything out of if you take anything from their conversation, I feel like this is like the biggest thing to take from it.
Oh,
Um
yeah. There's two other ways actually though. You mentioned him being vulnerable, but that is one for sure. But there's two other things he says that I
mm,
think are
mhm.
possibly him being even more vulnerable. So the first is on page 413, and Feyre asks him why. And then she says, "He knew what I meant," and shrugged.
Mhm.
But because when the legends get written, I didn't want to be remembered for standing on the sidelines. I want my future offspring to know that I was there and that I fought against her at the end, even if I couldn't do anything useful. Because he went on, his eyes locked up with mine. I didn't want you to fight alone or die alone. Like that from this feared high lord who everyone up until the end thought was on Amarantha's side. I mean, she's known obviously for at least a little while that he's not. But even so,
Yeah.
like, that's significant. And then the other
Mhm.
thing that I think might be the most vulnerable thing he says is on page 414. Feyre asks him, "Are you going to fly home?" A soft laugh. "Unfortunately, it would take longer than I can afford. Another day, I'll taste the skies again." I glanced at the wings tucked into his powerful body because his wings are out, and my powerful voice was hoarse as I spoke. "You never told me you love the wings or flying." And then he says, "Everything I love has always has a tendency to be taken from me. I tell very few about the wings or the flying." So, like, we find
Dude.
out Feyre is one of the only people who even knows he has wings.
Yeah. Which is
That's
pretty crazy because we saw the wings like pretty early on. I mean, they were kind of like, little glimmers, but
yeah,
still like, and also just like, I mean, the fucking sadness of that quote, like everything I love has always had a tendency to be taken from me. Like,
yeah,
Jesus Christ. Well, and one of the things I actually really love is her kind of follow up mental thought after he says
mm,
that, where she was like, "A high lord who loved to fly, trapped under a mountain, shadows
yeah,
not of his own making, still haunted those violet eyes. I wondered if they would ever fade." But like that first, a high lord who loved to fly, trapped under a mountain, like her to kind of also make that realization about him. Like we're just kind
yeah,
of this whole conversation is really seeing like a shift in their relationship and whatever that means for the future. But there is definitely this shift of like, it kind of feels like all these pretenses have just sort of been flopped away.
yes,
Because even just like the way she speaks to him, and I think it's funny too, like she has a few of these moments where she's like finding it difficult to be like as frosty to him as she wants to be.
yeah,
And
yep,
it's because she like understands him too much. Like she can't, not only does she understand him, but she remembers how he fought for her. Like
yeah,
one of the things Ariel and I talked about last episode was like he is screaming like bloody murder for Feyre while she's being
yeah,
tortured. And it's quite insane. And she remembers that. Like I love Tamlin, but like she survived because of Rhysand. So
yeah,
there's sort of this level of, I think, like appreciation, but also understanding that their relationship is a little bit of being kind of like
yeah,
snarky with each other. Because what I
yeah,
think is interesting is on page 413, after she asks the why, after the quote and everything that you just said, which by the way, under that, I literally wrote love triangle. I thought you'd be happy that I finally
yes.
understand what a love triangle is. Um, After he says this whole die alone thing, which obviously we know is like a very big deal because that's what Feyre says to Tamlin about why she stays with the fairy,
Yeah,
which is literally right there. She says, anyway, um, what I think is so funny though is there's this moment of exposing a vulnerability.
yeah,
And then right after he makes this joke above, like, I doubt you'll be saying that when I take you to the night court.
yep,
And I think it's this interesting, he like switches to villain again, right?
yeah,
Because that's his mask, I think is what we're
yeah,
learning, is the villain
yep,
is his mask and it's a lot easier. Um and I think it's kind of, there's this like back and forth of them both kind of being a little snarky, but then also having like these really true, very serious conversations. Cause also when he asks her about how does it feel to be a high fae, and her response is the beautiful quote that Ariel said to us a little while ago on page 414. What I think is interesting is that she does decide to be completely honest with Rhysand about this. And I
yeah,
think, and it's a big portion of it, is that she says maybe it was because the shadows in his eyes would also forever be in mine.
mm,
And I think she sees a kindred spirit of darkness and regret
yes,
within
yes,
Rhysand. Like I think they both share this darkness and regret of the darkness, like
yeah,
in each other. And I think that's why she feels like safe to be honest with him, because
yeah,
she puts Tamlin on this kind of shiny, glimmery, clean surface, which she has put him there. I don't think Tamlin is asked to be there. I think she has just
No.
put him in that space. I
Yes.
actually think Tamlin has tried consistently to show that he is flawed and what have you to her.
Yes.
Um, but she kind of puts Tamlin in this place, but she feels that Rhysand's kind of like down in the muck with her. And I think
Yeah.
that's why she feels like she can be so honest with him, which is also very sticky for a love triangle, I would say.
I
Like,
was
it
gonna
does make me
say.
a little concerned that she feels like she's not clocking it yet. But
Yeah.
if there's ever someone you feel within two people, and I don't even think she's interested in him, like,
No.
in that way at all. But if there's ever two people you're interested in and one of them you feel like you can be more honest with, I
You
don't
know,
know.
it's
But
it's
she's not
feeling
interested in him. That's not, like, what's
no.
happening. But still, I'm very yeah.
It's feeling a little bit reminiscent of I know we've mentioned this before, Twilight
Twilight.
with Jacob, right?
Jacob and
Of
Edward.
just
Yeah.
like, yeah, like when Edward leaves, like
Yeah.
she's down and depressed and
Mhm.
Jacob is there and understands her on some level. Now we're going to get a very different story. I'm not saying that's what we're going to get in future Avatar books. We're going to get a very different story. Um but it is a little reminiscent in the sense of like the way Jacob and Bella relate to one another is starting to feel similar to how maybe Rhysand and Feyre relate a little bit to one another. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so maybe it'll be like that though, where it's just, like,
Yeah.
kind of the stickiness of, like, her and Rhysand being friends,
Yes.
where there's clearly drama between Tamlin and Rhysand, like, that's
Yes.
gonna be an issue.
Now, one thing I can promise people is, don't worry, Rhysand is not gonna imprint on Feyre's baby. No, don't have to worry about that. I think it's a
Oh
safe thing
god.
to spoil.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, I think this I don't know, this conversation between them and then the way it ends,
Yeah,
like,
okay, so let's talk
so
about this.
he clearly senses something.
Can I read the quote? Because I think it's a pretty
Please do.
important quote. So on page 415, he's about to leave, right? And it says, he bowed at the waist, those wings vanishing entirely, and had begun to fade into the nearest shadow when he went rigid. His eyes locked on mine, wide and wild, and his nostrils flared. Shock, pure shock flashed across his features at whatever he saw on my face, and he stumbled back a step. Actually stumbled. What is, I began. He disappeared, simply disappeared, not a shadow in sight, into the crisp air. What does that mean?
Cool. Cool.
Like, and
I
this is one of the other cliffhangers we get is
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
whatever he sees and this sort of left open bargain that he does
Yeah.
say she's gonna see him in the
Yeah.
night court. So I would say aside from Feyre's survival guilt, this is the other cliffhanger we're left on is there's
Yeah.
still this open-ended question about what is going to happen between Rhysand and Feyre in terms of this bargain, in terms of whatever the fuck he saw.
Yeah.
Um, it's very curious.
It is very curious. And yeah, there's really not much more to say about just like, okay,
No,
what the fuck? I also think there is it's like a
I think I know.
side story
I think I
cliffhanger,
know what you're gonna say.
which is Jurian,
Yep.
Mr. Eyeball, Mr. Ring Eyeball has gone missing.
Yes,
Because
and
yeah, we
and bone and bone.
and Bone, yeah, we get this very funny like cleanup, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Of okay, so they destroyed and sealed Amarantha's court under the
Thank
mountain.
God.
Cool, cool. They haul off and burn Amarantha's body. Get it? Get it? Makes sense.
Yep.
But then it says Jurian's bone and eye were somehow missing. I don't like how this is phrased. The somehow
No.
missing. Well, and also we had learned too that anyone who was like loyal to Amarantha had kind of like fled, right?
Yeah.
Like the Adder fled, Lucian's brothers fled.
Yep.
And so it's a little like, okay, like there's like, I feel like these are sort of like side story cliffhangers, but they're kind of these like other little things that you're like, I wonder if this is gonna come back and like bite us in the butt somehow. Like I don't love that the adder is just like out and about.
It
Like don't love that. Also, Feyre has this really fascinating moment too, where she was,
mm,
or on 415, she's like,
yeah.
this is right after she realizes that Jurian, let's just say Jurian is missing. I feel like that's the easiest way to phrase that.
Yeah.
She says, as much as I wanted to hate her, as much as I wished I could have spat on her burning body, I understood what had driven her, a very small part of her, but I understood it.
I'm so glad you brought this up. I had the same quote, and I think this is the magic of Feyre,
Yeah,
of
totally.
her ability to understand two truths, right?
Yeah,
Like,
100%.
it really she is the type of person, or type of Fae now, I guess,
Mm,
who can see in a I know we call it devil's advocate because it really is, but I know that has that phrase gets a little sticky in
yeah,
these
yeah,
times.
yeah,
But I think this is an actual true devil's advocate, like a good devil's advocate of like she understands why Amarantha did what she did because Amarantha did it for love. And I'm not
yeah.
talking about towards Tamlin because that's not
No,
love. She did it for the love of her sister,
her
right?
sister.
For
Yeah,
Clithia. Like she was on a vengeance spree for Clithia, which like, to gavel gavel a little bit. Um, how many of us watch movies like Taken or read books with
right.
like where the hero of the book
Totally.
or the movie or whatever is like getting revenge and we cheer them on, right?
Yeah,
Like there is a world where there's a book or a movie about Amarantha during that war 500 years ago where we're rooting for her to get revenge on
right,
Jurian, right?
right.
Like,
Yeah,
but as we know, history is written by the victors,
yeah,
right? And in this case, the victors were not Amarantha.
yeah,
And it's not at all to validate what she did because what she did is horrifying. I think this is where we start getting into like this idea of like rightful vengeance versus like crossing the line into like, oh, now you've just turned into a monster,
yeah.
which she has. Um, and that's why we're getting this story. But
Mm-hmm.
I think it takes a very special person like Feyre to see, yes, she was a bad guy. And there was a point in time where she wasn't a bad guy. And something horrible that happened to her and her loved one is what turned her into a bad guy.
Yeah.
And I
Well,
think
I
that
mean, she
type
was always kind of a bad guy because she was trying to keep the humans
oh,
enslaved.
okay, that's fair. I forgot about that part.
There's
Yes,
that.
yes,
But I
that
get what
is
you're
true.
saying. I get what you're saying in
Yes.
that it's like, well, ugh, I was actually about to say like this level of monster was kind of created, but it also kind of sounds like she was
Yeah.
a monster like before. I think what it
Yeah.
is that it's more that like her the monster that the actions of the particular monster that had to do with her sister, I think what you're saying
Yes.
is that we can all understand that. Like
Yes.
that we can grab onto. That we can, as she says, a very like I understood what had driven her. We understand how it started. I think is maybe the way to
Yes.
like kind of sit with that in like a happy
Yes.
space.
I think
Yeah.
Amarantha, if Clithia had never been tortured by Jurian, right? I think Amarantha still, like you said, would have been a bad guy. She would have been. I think it would have been more of like she just was the King of Hybern's right hand woman,
Yeah,
right? And
totally.
done some really horrible things. I don't think
Yeah.
she would have gone to the level of psychotic.
Yeah, I don't think this curse would have happened.
No,
I don't think any of that would have occurred. Like
no,
I just don't think that like would have happened. But yeah, I also I think the way you phrased that before though was so beautiful. Like I agree. I think this is the beauty of Feyre, and I think it just struck me in this moment how Sarah J Maas's female main characters are all extremely strong.
yeah,
Like just very very strong. And I think Farrah sometimes gets written out because it's not a very
physically based strength.
physically based strength. Exactly. I think I'm realizing as we're going through this that like Farrah's strength is her compassion and her
Yeah.
ability to know to accept two truths. Not when it has to do with herself, very obviously, but
Yes.
when it has to do with other people,
Yes.
um other beings, her ability to really throw herself into their shoes, I think is her strength. And we've already kind of seen that a little bit. And I feel like this statement is like almost starting to kind of like, I think we're going to continue to get more of this kind of style of her.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think out of the 3 heroines of the Massverse, Feyre is the most emotionally mature and the most emotionally like, that's where she really
Yeah.
leads from, is her emotions and her, I guess, like, she's the most grounded because, like, the heroine of Crescent City is, like, she's a great leader, but she can be somewhat of a brat sometimes as much as I love her,
Yeah.
both in, like,
That's
the
actually
literal sense as
exactly how
well
you
as
could describe
oh,
the main one in Throne of Glass as well. So,
I was gonna say with Throne of Glass, the main character of Throne of Glass, I think is even more her sort of Achilles heel. She's even more of a martyr than
yes.
Feyre is.
Yes.
She to
To a
some
fault.
really to a fault and
Yeah.
dangerous fault. Whereas Feyre, but those two other heroines, like they are kick ass when it comes to battle, right? And it's not
Yeah, like
that Feyre
physically.
isn't. Yeah,
Yeah.
like we've seen. I mean, human Feyre
We
defeated
know fear
Midgard
human Fairy
monster.
kicks ass. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, but, like, to the level the other 2 do, not quite.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Feyre, she really leads from the heart, and
Yes.
I think that's her strength.
Yes.
Um,
Beautifully said.
Thank you. Then they get to go
Oh,
home.
okay. Dude, this last
It's
page is so happy.
I think one of my favorite parts
Yes.
is we know Alice and the boys
Yes.
are safe,
Exactly. And the boys
and the boys.
just running around,
Yep, that
like
made me
playing
so
tag.
happy.
I'm assuming, but yeah, it's so cute. Oh, it's so joy, so much
So we
joy.
get that, and they're laughing, and it's beautiful. And then Feyre, like, she calls the spring court home.
Oh,
Like, that's really big, and we end on this really beautiful, like, note. It's like it feels very, like, almost the end of, like, a feel good,
yeah, yeah, totally.
movie or, like, even a rom-com or, like, sitcom of just, like, Lucian calls them in for dinner, like
It's
yeah, and they're just
dinner
like
time, guys. Come
and they're
along.
watching the sunset,
Oh,
and she's like, "We'll save all the bad stuff for tomorrow. Like, let's just enjoy now." And it's
yep.
just and truly, like, that is kind of like it's a perfect ending, especially, like, for those who know where we go into, right? In the next
Mhm.
book, in Mist and Fury, like, it is I'm glad they get to have this moment before they start some new adventures because we have some new adventures right around the corner for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, it is so like yeah, it feels very like 90s sitcom with
Yes.
like the intro how like the intros are like everyone like smiling at the camera and like
Yeah.
beckoning someone over. Like that's how I imagined Lucian just like, "Come on guys, dinner time," you
Yeah.
know? Like it feels so like
Your expression was just perfect.
yeah, thank you. But yeah, it is the sweetest thing. And one of the things I really, really love too is before this moment, before she hears the giggles and all of that, Feyre actually does say to herself, she said, "But I made it. I'd brought us both home."
Yeah.
I think that is another really important statement too, is that while we've been discussing how guilty she has felt about stuff and everything, we're we can see we're starting to get at least this silver lining perspective,
Yeah.
which is all I really want for her.
Yeah.
I know she's not going to completely be able to erase this one aspect, but I also want her to be able to realize the good that she did do.
Yeah.
So I love that on the last page, we do get her being like, I'd brought us both home. Like, I did this.
Yep.
So I'm glad it's starting to happen. And it honestly, it makes sense because what? This is like 2-3 days after. Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot to unpack. But yeah, I love that that's a statement that she has. And then we go into this really lovely, like kind of cheesy, but it feels so deserved. Like it feels so
So
nice to have
deserved.
this little smiling, like Tamlin has his arms around her and they're just
Yeah.
like standing there and just like, look at our home. It's so beautiful. It's just like, yay, they deserve this. And then the let's go home. It's so lovely. It just makes my heart just so happy.
Right? You
Yeah.
can almost hear his fiddle in the background. Like, you know.
Yeah. Oh. Oh my god,
And then the book ends.
and then the book ends.
Well,
It's
you
over.
guys,
You guys,
it's a we're done with book 1.
we're done
1
with
of
book 1.
5. So, your homework is I mean, look, if you want some extra credit, start reading Mist and Fury. Like, truly. Like, and
Yeah.
so just to let you guys know, we are going to take a bit of a hiatus.
Yeah.
We're currently recording this at the beginning of November. We are going to give ourselves the holiday, because I think we earned it.
Yeah.
We don't know exactly when we'll be coming back, but it will probably be sometime. I would say probably towards the beginning ish of next year, January, February, TBD. Watch this space. We will let you guys know. Watch our social media, which
Mhm.
remember, you can follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and Blue Sky at Cauldron Save Us Pod to find out when we're coming back. We'll probably do like a little trailer too, for season 2 on the feed. But yeah, we're gonna go on a hiatus. If you want, we highly encourage you, get ahead on the reading. If you want to finish the whole series before we come back,
Go for it.
fucking do it. Like,
Yeah.
and then you can listen to the spoiler episodes too, which is
Exactly.
exciting. But until then, we would love it if you rated, reviewed us, and subscribed to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and YouTube. Again, we're probably going to put out a little trailer, so that will be where you can find out when we're coming back, as well as on our socials. Um, if you have any questions for us, suggestions in between the seasons, whatnot, you can email us at cauldronsaveus@gmail.com. And that's it. That's
That's
all,
it.
folks.
I mean, what a fun, like, it's just a good book.
It really
You know what I
is.
mean? I just think she does a really good job telling a story. And I'm just thank you guys for thank you friends, listeners, watchers for coming along on this journey with us. It's been so cool to see, like our downloads and see people kind of respond to our TikToks and stuff like that. It's been really cool to see kind of anyone interacting with the community. I mean, I think one of my favorite things about big time nerds is that we're always going to want to talk about the thing that we're nerdy about, right?
Yeah.
And so I love getting to see people kind of fly their freak flags when it comes to this stuff. And so, just like thank you guys for coming along, and we hope you come along with us for the next books.
Yeah, especially because the next one is, I
Our
would say,
favorite.
both. Yeah, it's our favorite.
Yeah.
That and tied with Silver Flames, but like in terms
Yeah.
of the original, if you don't know,
Like
Akhtar was meant to
trilogy.
be a trilogy. It's I think pretty universally considered the favorite of the 3.
Yeah.
Um, so gear up for that one. It's a wild, beautiful ride. The
Yeah.
one thing I will lightly spoil is we get way more smut in the next
Oh,
one.
yeah, we do. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
great.
Yeah, yeah, don't
Like
don't
one of the
don't
most
don't worry.
yeah. Without spoiling it, I would say one of the most iconic smutty scenes in
Yes.
that book.
One of
Yes.
them. Yes.
One of them, yes. It's pretty great. So prepare for that. Get excited
Yeah.
for that. Get excited for all of it. It's so good. And yeah, like Corinne said, thank you guys for being here and listening to our wild, crazy rants
Yeah.
on our favorite face smut.
Yep.
That's so much
Ah,
more.
it's so much more. Well, kids, sweet babies, as always, you're welcome.
And we're sorry. See you guys later.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.